Hello and welcome to the AV Forums podcast, streaming live on Wednesday, the 24th of February. And join me on this edition, Ed Selley.
Turn my pages, bitch.
Kaz Harlow.
Do you think you're out of tune?
Greg Hook.
I know it was you.
And Tom Davies.
Get out of my sight before I demolish you.
Welcome back to the podcast. We are streaming live once again. Nice to see lots of you waiting on us this evening, and some big numbers already. We think we might know why. We're going to be talking about TVs and projectors tonight, and which ones should you have in your room. We're going to come on to that in a bit. We're going to find out what everybody's not been doing this week, and some other bits and pieces, and we might even get onto some software if we've got time. So we'll try our best to do that because it's best of the month. So we're not really reviewing anything this month. We're just going to tell you what's best. Best being very subjective. Obviously, we'll be talking scores. I know Kaz really wants to talk about scores this week, so stick around for Kaz's thoughts on that. He's going to go into it in quite some detail. Thanks to a thread that ran this week, which was really quite entertaining.
Something.
Nice to see Ken manage to make it as well on the live stream. He's here for the first time in 2 months. He's made it right at the start. Well done, Ken. Well done to you. Hopefully, we won't bore you too much. But if you get here early, I suppose you could leave early.
Beat the traffic.
Yeah, beat the traffic. Beat rush hour. Right, what are we doing this week? Well, I got my jab. So I'm now, it was fine. I didn't feel it at all. I got Pfizer, if it makes any difference. It was really well organized, straight in. Didn't feel it going into my arm. Waited 15 minutes to see if I had any side effects. I didn't grow a second head or anything like that. So it was fine. I was allowed to go. And that was that. And didn't feel anything that night. Next again morning, oh God, my arm was killing me. Just around where I'd been injected, it was almost like how it feels when it's bruised, really raw to the touch. Although it wasn't bruised, it was just raw to the touch. But apart from that, a bit of a metallic taste to the mouth. I was fine. What about you, Kaz? I think you've gone through it as well, haven't you? So
yeah, I had mine yesterday. It was very well organized, and yeah, it was like a scratch, so it was nothing at the time. And
it's but a scratch.
I woke up with, like you say, a bruise. It's nothing really, though. It's not a dead arm. It's nothing.
Did you guys both have the same one?
Yeah, I had Pfizer as well. Yep.
Team Pfizer.
Yep. I'm pretty sure it's given me a strange sensation that I don't want to work anymore and want to be on an island. So, I had that come to me while I was in the waiting area. So.
No, but what it does mean is that by the time all of us have had it, which should be, hopefully by the end of July, I think they're saying that all adults. So if that is the case, then
it's me out. Then.
yeah. But let's just see. It's exciting. Other exciting news. I finally got my VIN number, Ed.
Yes.
So I've now got my build date. So the build date is week beginning the 29th of March. And the projected delivery to the dealer is the end of May, so 29th of May. So if that works out the way it's supposed to work out, then I shall have my car for the summer. When Boris says, right, you can all go and get pissed, I can go out driving.
Please note, can we be very clear about this? Phil rarely drinks, and he's not making an association between those two activities.
No. I'm teetotal. I think most of the listeners know I'm teetotal.
Yes.
So,
but just in case anyone's listening for the first time and you're saying that I'm taking delivery of a several hundred horsepower car to go out and get absolutely bladdered.
No, that's not what I meant at all. No, that's my drink. That's my high. Right. So, Kaz, you've been jabbed. Anything else?
No, just crazy busy at work and still trying to wipe out most of my inordinate collection. I think I've got.
Oh, you're still selling stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I'm working my way through. I'm being a bit more careful about steelbooks because they're actually worth something rather than the Music Magpie 2p. So.
They are the we buy any car of optical media.
Yeah, I've been getting rid of as much as I can, and it is interesting trying to make the choices between what you'd actually flip a disc out for, and what what probably you could make do on streaming. And I wouldn't have said that before, but there's only a few. I mean, like my top movies, I just couldn't ever imagine sticking on streaming, I would go straight and find one of probably 4 editions that I've got. But there's plenty that movies that I enjoy, but I'd be quite happy, I think, just watching it on streaming. So and you know, things like Apple, they you find some unusual ones in 4K on there. So which haven't had disc releases. So I'm whittling my way down slowly, get rid of more truckloads. It's 20 years of collecting, I guess. Had to be done.
Yeah, well, I used to when I first started Baby Forums in 2003 and onwards. Obviously, we started with DVDs back then. When we started building the editorial, it was all DVD reviews. And by the time I got rid of my DVDs, I had probably just under 2,000 cars, and they went for pennies.
Worth 2,000p.
I still. Here's the funny thing on Music Magpie. I don't know how their algorithm works, but because I've got some DVDs left, the DVDs are going for much more than the Blu-rays.
Is it quite rare? Is it specific stuff though?
I mean, it's not really. It's a bit random stuff.
Is it
like
not? If it survived
the
first
film on DVD will go for more than a Blu-ray, possibly because there's so many of the Blu-rays out.
To be honest, I don't want to see Seagal in that higher resolution. I can understand. I can understand
People are going for DVD.
Ideally, VHS would be the format of choice.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, I maybe I should have waited a little bit longer, and then got rid of the Blu-rays when they become clear classics. But yeah, it is. There have been some odd choices, odd picks in there. I wish I had the list, but some ones which you'd get like a $5 for, and others you get literally 2p, and you couldn't pick between them.
Yeah, I wish I'd hang on to my laser discs though. That is the one thing I wish I had done, just for the
physicality.
Just like Ed, you like your LPs, and laser discs the same. Double gate folds and the special editions that I had and so on. That's what I miss. Just having them on the shelf. I'd just like to have them again. But finding them now in mint condition and so on, you're paying silly money for stuff that you're never going to watch again.
No, absolutely. It's not. There's different arguments again to the record business, isn't there? So
yeah. Right. Greg, what you been doing?
Well, working, coming home really. Well, I have started watching Black Panther on Netflix, which I've not seen before, which I'm really enjoying. Don't know if anyone else has seen that.
What, the film?
What, the film Black Panther?
What did I say? No, Black Lightning.
Right.
Sorry, Black Lightning.
I was thinking that's not on Netflix.
Yeah, no.
Disney Plus.
I quite like Black Lightning. I don't think I made it to season 2 just at a time from a time point of view, but I quite like it. It's not bad for what they were going for.
Yeah. I think it's on 3. It's got to 3 seasons. I think. I'm not sure if it's been cancelled or what, but up to about episode 7 of season 1. It's pretty good.
Cool. Tom?
Oh, well, I've been engaging in extremely nerdy activity in that I've bound all of my 2000 AD comics from last year, which earned me the comment from my son, "That's a lot of comics." And that's got me thinking that maybe I should rethink my subscription.
No, you can't have your children judging you.
Well, I know there are other 2000 AD fans, like past and present, on the forum, so but I'd be interested to hear what those dudes and lady dudes think. But I've been buying it since I was in high school, so it's definitely in that. It feels like it's in that.
America? I didn't know that. Do you mean secondary school?
I mean high school. And anyway, it's in that like that space of put away childish things for me. But yeah, it's one of those things that I still obsess over. I don't necessarily keep up with reading it every single week, and I'm starting to think that maybe this is just a thing that is taking up space in my house. But yeah, I would love to know what people on the forums who are fans of 2000 AD think, if I should keep on with it, because the quality is pretty good. It's really good. But I just 2 kids, 3 jobs. I just haven't got time for comics anymore, which is the saddest thing. Because it's been my thing for so long.
You should always have time for your hobbies.
Yeah.
One thing because I not only in this job do I work silly hours, but my previous job I work silly hours and shifts and all the rest of it. And you need a release. You need to have a hobby. You need to have you time, basically.
Well, I think one of my issues is that I may have too many of those.
Okay.
So, there's this going on, there's the comics, there's the films, there's the video games, there's the podcasts. I need to, something's got to give. Something's got to give.
Yeah, games are definitely a time suck when you're trying to escape.
I don't know how people do games. There must be skiving off work or whatever, because I don't know how you find the time to do it. Because what's the average game nowadays? 30 to 50 hours?
Well, I mean, Tom's different, I'm guessing, because he actually plays the games, but I generally only go online with friends for a couple of hours a week. But I do find myself drifting on there in spare segments here and there, just to.
Yeah, I'll get through a AAA game maybe once every 6 months, and in between those, I'll play little bits and pieces of indie games. So like I'm playing Concrete Genie at the moment, which is a graffiti-based game, which is really awesome, and it's I think on PlayStation Plus as a free game at the moment, and included in your subscription. And it's just so much fun, and you can dip in and out of it and play it for half an hour. I've been playing it with my son, and it's just lovely. So, yeah, they are a massive time sink. But when you sort of commit to like a big AAA, big story-driven game, it's like something like Red Dead or something along those lines, then I just accept that it's going to take me half a year to get through it and avoid spoilers for that long.
Yeah, I mean, it's games like Assassin's Creed, the latest one. I've got 100 hours in that, I think.
I have too, and I've got nowhere near everything done.
How long is that 100 hours to rack up? Because I've got a friend of mine, he's a teacher with 3 kids and probably a secretly very angry wife who probably can put 50 hours into a game per week.
Cool.
Which is...
teacher, isn't he?
Do give him my details when he needs some advice on divorce.
I don't know how he does it, but
I have some experience in this regard.
To put 60 hours on the clock on a game,
yeah, that's mind-boggling.
3 months.
And teaching at the same time, I've been there, and you just haven't got that time. You must never sleep.
You've got all them bloody holidays you get as teachers.
Me?
Yeah,
no, absolutely not. No, I get statutory holidays. Thanks very much. I get
even
my
then,
28
if
days.
you did have holidays with kids, they're on holiday too. So it does take a level of commitment, I think.
Well, it's the multiplayer games where you can really lose your life to.
Yeah, I gave up on that a very long time ago.
It has to be said. I have to admit, Greg, the appeal of being told by some random 12-year-old in Shittam Gulch, Arkansas, that he has in fact had Congress with my mother gets pretty. I find that it runs out of joy pretty quickly. So,
well, I think that's a lot of console dependent, because on the PC you can mute them quite easily and you have your own chat room. So
PCs are sort of more self-selecting. Yeah, as I say, consoles not so much. So
I think games like Modern Warfare 2, Call of Duty, I think I put about 1,000 hours into it.
I can't even imagine having 1,000 hours of life.
Anyway,
there's your strapline.
Yeah. So anyway, Ed, you'd have been glued to the TV at 3:30 on Monday afternoon to find out when you were allowed to go and have a tipple down the local.
I actually wasn't watching it, but it was good news. But I thought, do you know what? It's exciting. The reason you've saved me till last is not because I've done anything interesting. I haven't, other than obsessively looking for a pair of Adidas trainers from 2019. I've done very little. But what I am doing, as I speak, is something I've never done before, which is I am reviewing a product in real time with you watching me, because I've got the AKG podcast kit, which has been sent to me. So I'm wearing a pair of the AKG headphones. If I lift this up, you can see that I have an AKG microphone in front of me, which is why it's a different location, which is why there's no background showing at the moment, so on and so forth. Do let me know in the comments if you think I sound different, worse, better, so on and so forth. I'll be objectively weighing that up and getting a review out on the site. So
how disappointed were you that that it wasn't a case full of beer?
Well, yes. If someone wants to send an altogether different sort of podcast kit, I've made it clear for some time that that there's some scope for that. But no, needless to say, I mean, obviously, it's an interesting difference. The other thing I can do is obviously there's Tom with all of his books. If I rotate the screen slightly, probably all hell will break loose. I can at least show that I don't do books, as you know. I do have books elsewhere in the house, but there's some evidence of records.
Got laser discs.
Yeah, so all my laser discs. So yeah, that's what's going on over there. What you can see in that snapshot, that's
whatever you've done there, Ed, your mic's gone all funny.
Oh God, hang on.
Yeah, so this review's going really well at the minute.
Hang on a second. There we go. That should sort it. What you can see there is a corner of B. So yeah, all good. So yeah, that's otherwise it's fine. I'm just in the process of talking to an online retailer where I found a pair of these elusive 2019 trainers, and he's admitted that he hasn't updated the site in some time. He doesn't know where they are. So hopefully I can get hold of them, because they are my favorite trainers of the last 10 years, and I'm quite sad about that sort of thing. And no, Mr. H, it doesn't seem to filter background sound. I don't know if you can hear my son laughing like a man on nitrous oxide upstairs, but that's fine. And the sign behind me, this is my motivational message. It simply says the beatings will continue until morale improves. They were all out of Live, Laugh, Love posters, so I had to improvise. So that's what it says.
Lovely. Well, that's what we've all been doing. Not a lot, as you can tell, but probably just the same as what you've been doing this week out there. And thanks for joining us. If you are joining us live, lots of you in the chat at the moment. It's great to see you. Thank you very much for your questions. Richard Sim suggested, Tom, that you don't sleep. That's his solution for you on that one. So yeah, can't hear you. You're obviously on mute.
Yeah, I don't sleep a lot anyway, having an 18-month-old baby in the house. So, you know, that's out. I'm not gonna score any extra time from that, I'm afraid.
Okay.
I used to do my technical support retainer when my son was really young and got him in the middle of the night. So people used to get, you know, quite serious responses to their customer support emails at sort of 1:30 in the morning. And it's like, have you been outsourced to the subcontinent? No. I just have a small child. Oh, that seems logical. So
Yep.
Yeah. So yes, thank you very much if you're joining us live and in the chat window. It's good to see you. Get your questions in. We're going to be coming on to some subjects to discuss in a little while. But before that, we've got some competitions, and Kaz is going to tell us all about them.
Sure, you can win a Denon Home Soundbar 550 worth $599. We've also got a bunch of 4K and Blu-ray competitions: Elysium 4K, Criterion's February Blu-ray titles, Lovecraft Country Season 1 on Blu-ray, Restless Natives on Blu-ray, Arrows Demons 1 and 2 limited edition Blu-ray set, and a couple of Patreon exclusive competitions. It's a Sin and Hellraiser Judgment and Hellraiser Revelations on Blu-ray. Stay tuned for our podcast exclusive competition to win a copy of Criterion's Investigation of a Citizen Under Suspicion on Blu-ray, and last week's exclusive to win a copy of Whiplash on 4K is still open for those who haven't yet entered. You can always go back and watch last week's podcast. Previous competition, head over to avforums.com/competitions to enter. All competitions open to eligible AV Forums members resident in the UK. And previous competition winners: Jeremy Rose 77 won a copy of Bill and Ted Face the Music on Blu-ray. Sarah H won a copy of Muscle on Blu-ray. Cos 22998 won the patron exclusive copy of 2012 in 4K. UK won the podcast exclusive copy of LX 2048 on Blu-ray.
Who won that? Sorry, Kaz.
You can.
Thanks. Thank you.
Excellent. Well done. Well, congratulations on your prizes there, and get in. Is it?
Is it on this link though, Stu?
Is it on the same link?
YouTube link.
Right. Sorry about that. We seem to have had some technical issues there. Stuart hasn't put 50p in the meter yet again. So we kind of hung up there for a moment, but we should be back. We should be broadcasting live again, so apologies for that. These things do happen. Right, so moving on, we're going to talk about making your AV experience better and what you can do, or whatever, to improve your sound, your speakers, your TV, your projector, all the rest of it. We're going to cover this over the months to come this year, where we're all still locked down, and how we can improve things. So one question that we get asked quite a bit is, should you go for a large screen TV now that we are getting larger screen sizes, a 75 inch, 85 inch, there's an 83 inch plasma coming this, plasma, I wish, OLED coming this year, new screen size there. So do you go for a large screen TV with its advantages of obviously brightness, its nits, the fact that it can do HDR, it'll be able to do Dolby Vision as well as HDR10, HDR10 plus, HLG, all that. So what should you go for? Should you go for that, or should you go for a projector, which will obviously give you much larger screen size than 85 inches? Typical screen size, starting screen size for a projector is around about 100 inches. And of course, with a projector, you can do lots of things, like you could go for a scope screen. So you could watch 235 movies on a scope screen with no black bars top and bottom, because the black bars top and bottom are off the screen. And so all you get is the image. You can do any aspect ratio you like. So you could do an IMAX ratio if that's your thing. That's what you want to go for. So there's lots of pros and cons. There's also lots of questions that I noted that had been answered, added to the podcast thread for this week. So we'll go through some of them. I have read them, and it looks like some of you are already experimenting with TVs and projectors, and some of you prefer the projectors, some of you prefer the TV approach. And then Captain Dude in the thread, he went into some detail of if you're going to ask a question like that, then really you've got to talk about the environment as well. Well, I want to save the environment, the sound system. Should you go Atmos? Should you have 17 subwoofers and 64 channels and all the rest? I'm going to save that for a little bit later. I think the main thing is, do you benefit from having a large screen in terms of a TV, or do you benefit from having a projector? And I guess if you're going for home cinema, you really should be aiming for a projector if you've got the room for it. And that's because obviously you are into films if you're into home cinema. And the best way, I think personally, to get that cinema feel is to watch an image that is being reflected back to you. So a projected image, not a direct view image, but a projected image. I think there's something just about a projected image that looks right, that looks filmic, that looks cinematic, especially if you go to the time to put your projector into a room that suits it. So a completely darked out room, blacked out room, as much as you can. I mean, I know people have other halves that they have to please, and not everybody is lucky enough to have a dedicated room. But if you do have that facility, if you do have a dedicated room and you're able to take advantage of it, and you're able to put in a screen with either manual masking or electronic masking, there's just something about it. It's just anamorphic lens or even the zoom. It doesn't really matter. Just something about watching an image on a good quality projector in a well-designed room on a proper projection screen. It'll blow the TV away, in my opinion, every time when it comes to watching films. And people are going to be screaming, but what about HDR? To be honest with you, HDR, it can look good on a projector. It just doesn't look the same as on a TV. You don't have that dynamic range. You don't have the brightness. But do you really need it? Well, until we get laser projectors and more brightness, then no, I don't really think. I certainly don't miss the impact of HDR on a projector compared to watching it on an OLED in the living room. There is a difference. There's an obvious difference there. A direct view TV is going to give you much more peak brightness. You're going to get more details. It's going to give you more impactful image. But if you got a projector like the latest Sony's, or even better, a JVC with frame adapt, it does a fantastic job of dynamically tone mapping the image. So it does look excellent. So that's one side of it. That's the side that I favor as a home cinema fan, as a film fan. That's one way to look at it. But the new way, of considering this is that 75, 85-inch screens are becoming the norm these days. We're still waiting on micro LED, and I'll put my neck on the line. It's still going to be at least 10 years from now until micro LED, where you can spec the screen to be CinemaScope or other ratios. You're still looking at 10 years away for that kind of thing. I mean, micro LED at the minute is uber expensive, even for a 75, 85-inch screen with that technology. It's not for the likes of us. It's for your Premiership footballers and your lottery winners, really. And again, you're getting into technology early doors. It's going to be really expensive. That's when I think it would start to make sense, though, is when micro LED does reach that point. So in the next 10 years, where you can buy panels and you can click them together and make any size of screen you like. You could turn a whole wall in your living room into a screen if you wanted to. You could have a huge CinemaScope screen just by clicking the different micro LED panels together and creating a screen, which is the desired end goal. Whether we ever reach that or not, we don't know. And again, it's going to be at least 10 years before we get to that kind of thing with that technology. So where we are at the minute is with OLED and with LED LCD TVs. We have in the past seen large screen TVs. I remember my visit to the Panasonic Plasma Factory back in Osaka. Ooh, that would have been 2011, 2012. They were manufacturing then a 150-inch plasma screen. Back then, a certain Chelsea owner had 2 or 3 orders in for his yacht. Okay, sorry, getting distracted there. Got funny noise coming through. So large screen TVs, they are an option. So that's where we are at this moment in time. What are the advantages? The advantages of the TV is, like I say, direct view, HDR. It's going to look spectacular. It's going to look really good. It's going to be a lot more impactful than the projector, but it's not going to be quite as filmic or cinematic in those terms. But you're going to have plenty of dynamic range. So those are the options. It then comes down to, I guess, where you're going to place this. Is it going to be a living room? Is it going to be a dedicated room? And that's where you start to go off on tangents. So Kaz, being a film fan, having listened to the options that are available in front of you, and let's just put the family.
Okay, so we're stripping out any locational restrictions, any family restrictions, and to a certain extent, budget restrictions.
At the moment, yeah.
Okay, then I would love a dedicated room with a projector at the back, blacked out, so that you get the decent brightness. That sounds tremendous. I have seen some of the comments in the thread. I don't dispute the idea that I couldn't ever really achieve the size of dedicated room I'd want, so therefore I could probably look towards one of the bigger TVs. If you can get a really big one, is it so much different? Like you can get like what, 85, 100-inch TVs, can you, Phil?
Well, you're paying a lot of money for 100-inch at the minute. I mean, the 88-inch OLED is still about £30,000 at the minute.
Right. So if money's a restriction, we're going projector. If money isn't a restriction, we're probably going ridiculous sized TV, because it's 2 different experiences, I think. And I think the projector is very cinema, but the TV is very precise. That's my take on it.
Okay. Greg, what would you go for?
Ooh, if definitely a dedicated room with projector. If money was no object, and you could just make up a room, like Kaz said, completely blacked out. I think there's nothing better than a projector. Unfortunately, my house has got a very funny shaped lounge. It's quite narrow but quite long, so it doesn't suit to a projector. I did have one probably about 15 years ago, Epson 100, I think it was, which was wired via a very long VGA cable from a computer in another room. And it was good, but it's just the room wasn't suited to it. So we were sitting too close, and in the end, we got rid of it. But yeah, if ideal world, it would be a projector.
Yeah. When you're talking about 15 odd years ago, nearly 20 years ago, not quite 20 years ago, but around about 15 to 20 years ago, I started dabbling in projectors, and back then it was CRT projectors. So I'm not sure if you're aware of what a CRT projector is, but basically it's 3 tubes, a unit the size of a mini metro, that made a hell of a lot of racket, hell of a lot of noise, and it was a completely analog system. And I spent lots of money on 2 of those. I bought one initially. It had to be strapped to the ceiling, and then you had to sit underneath, which was a lot of faith you're putting in the work of somebody else to make sure. But that was back in the day. So I've always really had a projector of one sort or another. I've been lucky enough that I've lived here for 20 odd years, and I've had a dedicated room, which is basically the big double bedroom. I decided to assign myself to the small room, and the big double bedroom became the dedicated cinema room. And then obviously my living room, which is behind me, looks like a blinking Curry's stock room these days with boxes and TVs and all the rest of it. But yes, those are the 2 options. Now, if we're going to take it back, and I missed Ed out because he went away, we'll get Ed in a minute. But if we're being a little bit more serious now, and we can split it into 2 different categories, I think you can have the dedicated home cinema, which it's going to be blacked out, it's going to be treated properly, acoustically treated, as well as the walls and the ceilings being a color that's not going to reflect light back onto the screen. You're going to have a CinemaScope screen, probably with masking for 16:9 or 178 to 1, 180 to 5 to 1, and so on. So you need to think about that. But I think one screen would cover all to do that. So that's one option. Another option, and I think this is going to be the more popular option for people, and certainly a step up on where a lot of people will be at the minute, and that is to have a media room. And a media room is basically a room where you can do a number of things. One being a large screen TV, and I think that's what most people would treat the lounge as at the moment. And that's where the large screen TV makes complete sense. You can put everything through the TV. The TV becomes the hub of the room. You can have a full sound system if you want. You can have a speaker, sound bar if you want. You can have a stereo system as well as a large screen TV, and use a multi-system. Or you could, in fact, have a projector as well. There's lots of ways nowadays where you can have a projector in a room, and there's projectors that are suited to being in rooms that do have light colored walls, lights, ceilings, and so on, where you're going to get some reflection, but you can marry them up with screens that reject light, ambient light, and so on, which improve the picture quality. So there's lots of options there. And if you're looking for, is there one best option or not? I think, well, no, it's going to come down to your personal circumstances. So Ed, your personal circumstances, you don't watch much TV, but you still got a TV. It's still at the heart of your system. It's still stuck on the wall, and it's there to be enjoyed.
Yes. My take on this is necessarily different to yours, because if we start talking about having a dedicated room, there's only one thing that's going in there, which is the hi-fi system that suits it, and my records in one place. Which, with that being the case, what you've just been talking about, media rooms, a family room sort of space, that's much more where a television is going to be. And with that being the case with my son, and just watching as much MasterChef as I do Oscar-winning cinematography, it's going to be a big television. But that's because of the specific requirements of what I have and the balance. None of you three, very wisely, are thinking about having sort of three. Well, I already have 3 turntables on the go, probably more than 3 turntables on the go. So any talk of a dedicated room is just going to get consumed by 2-channel. And when I say, oh, it would be a screen-based thing, please do not for a second misconstrue. I believe firmly that the most cinematic experience is a projected image. I completely agree with absolutely everything you've said. It's just in terms of my life priorities, I need space to have plenty of record players on the go. And in terms of then working that into, treated rooms and so on and so forth, my sacrifice comes down to having a screen, a television rather than a projector and screen. But I completely understand that for you people with different poisons, that's a different set of decisions to make. My decision does not necessarily represent my belief that the television is the better bet. It's the better bet for me.
Yeah. So I've asked Kaz his thoughts. Tom, you being a film fan, are you happy watching on a mobile device, a normal TV, or would you go for the projector if you could?
Oh yeah, if I could have a cinema room, I definitely would. I mean, I get the technology for precision that you can fit in a TV is awesome, and it's great, and it gives you an amazing picture. But I would dearly love to feel like I was in the cinema at home, just watching, garbage like ghost hunter shows or something. I would absolutely love that. But for my current circumstances, it's not going to happen anytime soon. That's okay. So yeah, it would be my preference. I am a bit of an old school cinema lover, and the feel of like the projected image is sort of romanticized in my brain. I think it's not at all like this is better than this. It's like, well, I love this more.
You make an interesting point there, because you're right. There's arguments beyond quality.
Yeah.
Because let's be clear about this. We've had this discussion in different circumstances. In a technical sense, what my digital front end does blows any of the analog stuff here out of the water. But there are elements to the presentation, there's elements to the way that you listen to it, where it's not simply about the biggest numbers or the lowest numbers or whatever the optimal set of numbers is. And I think that that's as valid for how you watch films that you love as it is listening to music that you love.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for imperfection. If you see what I'm saying.
I get that. Yes.
Yeah, it's there's something about feeling like something is real that you get from like you say, like an analog sound. And for me it's the same with like a projected image. It's purely psychological, but it feels more authentic.
I don't think it's just psychological. There is a difference there because it's a reflected image. It's not a direct view image, and they both look different. You have them side by side. They do look different. There's just a texture to a projected image that you just can't capture with a direct view display. Even if you had a full screen wall, like I described with, I've stood in front of the wall, 252-inch micro LED TV at CES.
Does it have Danny Dyer off to one side going, whoa?
No, it didn't, unfortunately.
It's not right then, is it?
But standing there, it was like, well, I could get a suntan off this. The amount of heat that it was generating. Coming back, you're thinking, well, how much radiation is this pumping into me for a start? And it did look great, but it was uber bright. It was too bright. It was too in your face. It was too over the top. The colors were just too oversaturated and everything else. And it was like, yeah, it's neat. I get it. And crystal LED, the same from Sony. They use it for, it's signage and billboards and that kind of thing. And it's the same technology. So you could do it. You could make a full wall, a screen wall, and it's coming in the next 10 years. That technology will be here in the next 10 years. Do I want it? I think I'd still prefer my projected image, to be honest with you, when it comes to cinema.
10 years is a long time in all these things, Phil. Let's see how it goes.
I think you're lucky, Phil, because I think that, I'm prejudiced because I have a friend who's got a converted garage cinema room blacked out with a projector. It's just not going to be anything like what you've got set up. Like, you've got it properly set up. It's not a kind of do-it-yourself amateur job, which he's done a tremendous job, but I've watched a film on it, and it doesn't feel like the cinema, even though I do like the projected image feel. So I think that you're lucky because you've got it set up like a mini cinema. And like Tom says, if I could have a mini cinema, like a projected mini cinema, that beats anything. But I think if I direct compare what I'd actually achieve, which is this washed out image that you can't see if there's any.
Don't put yourself down. I mean, there are companies now that can do it for you. You know, so
yeah.
If you live in an area where there's 5 or 6 of them within 5-mile radius of where you live, Kaz. So there are lots of useful companies, lots of useful things like that can get you up and running and so on. So it doesn't need to be a washed out image. I think a lot of people, if they haven't experienced projection as it is today, will think back to the days of the CRT projectors that I used to have up on my ceiling that used to be in the pub when you went to watch the football, and it looked horrible. It looked washed out because obviously it was put in a room where everybody was smoking to start with back then.
You were projecting the image about 6 feet ahead of the screen.
Yeah. The screen would be a dirty yellow color. The thing would never have been serviced since it was put in. The alignment would have been out and all sorts. And that to a lot of people is how they would experience a projector, a home cinema sized projector. And of course, it's going to put them off. And some of the early projectors were pretty bad. Some of the early LCD projectors were atrocious for image quality and so on. But we've got to a point now where you could pick up a really good quality projector for about £1,000, £1,500, and be able to create a really nice image. And the big boon this year, and it has been for the last couple of years, but I think it's really going to take off this year, is ultra short throw projectors. So instead of you having this massive OLED TV or LED LCD TV at 85 inches that you've got to wrestle into your room, you probably have to take a window out to get it through into the room to start with, or take a door to pieces to get it through, or whatever. You can now get ultra short throw projectors, some of them that come with light rejection screens, 100-inch size things. It sits about 5 to 6 inches away from the wall, maybe up to 12 inches away from the wall. So it's right up against the wall, and it's projecting an image that's 100 inches wide, and the quality is really good because they are using laser projectors for this. So Hisense do one, they call it Laser TV. Ingenious name. I don't know how they managed to come up with that name.
Inspired.
Yeah. And then Samsung call theirs the Premier, which is fantastic. It's something we've been saying on the podcast for a long time. Get rid of the model numbers, name your products. No, we want to see the JVC Windsor or the
I want someone to just go, well, just call it Jeff.
Yeah.
You're making it sound like caravans here, Phil. I don't think we want that.
No. Remember the rule of caravans. This is one of the very few truly hilarious lines in the Grand Tour. It's only a proper caravan name if, when you put the word anal in front of it, it becomes hilarious.
Yes, let's not go there. So, yeah, wrapping up on this, it'd be great to get your thoughts. There is a thread in the forum, the podcast forum on AV Forums. It's down the bottom. If you've got the main forum page, go down the bottom. We're down the bottom there. Click on that and click on the podcast episode. Leave your feedback. There's lots of feedback in there. People already telling us all about their projectors and their TVs and so on. If you don't go to the forums, but you're watching this on YouTube, if it's too late for the live chat, then leave a comment in the comments section and give us your feedback. Let's think what you want to know about the future ahead, and if you're considering a big screen for the living room, what would be the best option for you? Would it be a TV? Would it be an ultra short throw projector, or would it be a full-on cinema room if the budget was there and you had the space to do that? Would you go that route? Would you go for the full-on cinema treatment? Let us know what you think, and like I say, we're going to come back to this because it's
got more to give.
It's got lots more to give. There's so much you can talk about when it comes to, it's not just the image. You've got to match the image with the sound, and then there's so many avenues you could go down with the sound as well. For a long time, my cinemas at home were a 28-inch TV with a full-on Bowser Wilkins sound system, 2 Rel Storm subwoofers. So it was a bit mismatched in terms of it sounded full on, but it was a tiny little 32-inch TV or 28-inch TV. And we've kind of gotten around to now having screen sizes that are big enough to have the big impactful sound, and we've got immersive sound now with Dolby Atmos and DTSX and all the rest of it. So, you know, where we are now compared to where we were 10, 20 years ago, it's fantastic in terms of the quality that we have and what you can do in the home. So give us your ideas, give us your thoughts, tell us what you want to talk about a little bit more detail. There's lots of things. One of the important things I'll get out there now, maybe give you some food for thought when we come back to this subject later on, is having the speakers that are all the same size across the front 3 channels. It's the biggest mistake people make when it comes to home cinema. They go for a center speaker that's not the same size as the other 2 speakers at the front, and it gives you a real mishmash of sound, and it's one that can be easily solved, and it's one that we should maybe be getting onto speaker manufacturers a bit more about. You know, we don't want to buy a pair of speakers, we want to buy 3 speakers.
It's ironic that subsat manufacturers actually get this more right than some of the big ones.
It is a little bit, yeah. There are some of them out there, but yeah, it's one of the big downfalls. And I know there's somebody that works for a certain speaker manufacturer in the chat this evening who hopefully would agree. You should always go for at least 3 PMCs across the front, I'd imagine. Anyway, let's move things on. And Ed, we've got time to quickly go through some of the news that's been happening, some interesting news in terms of Spotify.
Yeah. Can I rephrase the word interesting to slightly baffling? The news this week, completely unprompted, and years after we thought it might actually realistically happen, is that Spotify has announced that there's going to be a lossless tier added to Spotify at some point in 2021. It's fair to say that I have spent a fair bit of time. I've read the thread, some good points raised in there. I've been reading comments in all sorts of other places. At the moment, this asks as many questions as it answers. There's a huge set of imponderables going on here. The first is that they've made it clear it's a lossless tier. There's no mention at all of high resolution audio. We have 3 rival services out there already offering a high resolution audio quotient of their content, and Spotify hasn't mentioned anything to do with that. So it does look like they're adding CD quality only. I mean, that's still a significant step up from what they do at the moment, but nevertheless, it's not, they're not breaking any ground here. And then we move on to all the questions that haven't been answered. At the moment, if you listen to Spotify, they use everything is encased in an Og Vorbis wrapper, which sort of makes it harder. The argument has always been that it does make it a damn sight harder to actually pirate. I mean, it's not impossible. If you want to pirate it, you can. There's no comment at this time as to whether they will then switch to using FLAC, but still encoded in this OGG outer, or whether it will just be pure and simple plain FLAC. We don't know if the entire library is going to migrate. The claim is that Spotify Connect will continue to work as before. Unfortunately, the nature of this being public discourse, I can't necessarily say exactly why I find that interesting, but suffice to say that there's some technical implications of that which are interesting. And then the other one, I have to say the comments on the AV Forums news story did start to make some sense, because I was like, why now? The number of people have said, oh, I probably won't cancel my subscription and move then, in that set of comments was quite illuminating. This does seem to be, as much as anything else, a means of reducing the bleed of customers away from Spotify to other services. And if a lossless library is sufficient, and it has to be said that it can still sound bloody good, then yeah, that possibly is an argument to it. I do have a conspiracy, if you wish to share it. It's not a litigious conspiracy theory, but I have an inkling that why it might be.
As long as you put a lot of alleged around it, it's fine.
There's no alleged to it. My suspicion, and I stand to be proved wrong on this, this leaves Apple Music as the major compressed only streaming service. And I think there's an argument that Spotify going lossless creates a bit of a headache for Apple, because unlike, with the partial exception of Amazon, who does make their own hardware, but it has rather different focuses than Apple's hardware. Apple going lossless is a bit of a challenge, because they are big into lots and lots of phones and tablets that don't have headphone sockets, and they'd very much like you to buy lots of AirPods. Now, they use their own proprietary Bluetooth system, which they don't release a huge amount of detailing about, between iPhones and iPads and AirPods, which is notionally higher quality than normal Bluetooth. But it would still leave them probably struggling to get a full bandwidth lossless service across using their own hardware. And I don't know whether this has been done. I think there may well be an element that it's been done purely to make their lives a bit difficult, because Spotify can do it because obviously they've got, as I say, I'm not 100% sure about every single Spotify connected device on earth being able to do this, but I dare say that there's caveats to that. But they can largely rely on other people's hardware being up to the job of doing it. If you've made a huge byline in selling people lots of little wireless earphones, that's harder to do. But the long and the short of it is that I don't necessarily understand why it's been done now, and after so many years of like doing limited trials of lossless streaming in certain corners of the US and so on and so forth, and now all of a sudden it happens. I mean, obviously, if it is happening, let's consider the benefits of Spotify. It still has the best learning algorithm of any streaming service on the market. It still learns more about what you're listening to and makes recommendations that are better than any other music streaming service.
Absolutely.
And Spotify play the car compatibility and so on and so forth. It does have huge potential benefits. But as I say, at the moment, the statement is big on news and light on detail. So we're going to have to wait to see what more information comes out from Spotify about how they're going to do this and what the mechanics of them doing it are going to be. And we'll update on a regular basis when we know from there. But yes, it now leaves Apple as the last major streaming service with no lossless tier.
Yeah. Interesting. I've been with Spotify for quite a number of years. I also have Tidal. So Tidal for...
Can I say something really sad before you...
Yeah.
My Spotify subscriber number only has 5 digits in it.
Right.
That's how long I've been paying them money.
Well, I use Spotify Connect when I'm in the car with Apple CarPlay and that kind of thing. I use it in the home when I want background music. If I want to put background music on a different room or whatever, and I'm not that concerned about sound quality, then fine. Tidal, I'll sit and use Tidal when I'm assessing equipment and when I want, master quality and so on. But it's interesting that Spotify are now going to go that route, and I wonder how much it's going to be. That's the other thing.
Yes, now, I mean, obviously the kicker is if they, let's face it, Spotify is losing money at a, grounded airline rate anyway. If you wanted to really, really mess the market up, is you do it at no cost. But I don't know if they can do that.
Oh, no, that would be interesting if they did.
It would, wouldn't it? So we'll see.
Yep. And some bad news, or is it bad news because they have had a long and illustrious
No,
career?
absolutely. It's not bad news. It's simply the end of an era. Yes, in other news, and we need to contextualize this. Daft Punk have split up. Now, we need to be clear that Daft Punk haven't really done a huge amount since 2013. So this isn't exactly shocking in any meaningful sense. It does have some, for those of us of a certain age, it has a certain... it's the end of an era because, I as we're covering software, I am an enormous fan of French electronica, and Daft Punk, Cassius, and Air were my gateway drugs to the whole world of French electronica. And as of now, February the 24th, 2021, Cassius is absolutely no more because of the tragic death of Philippe Sedar. Daft Punk has officially split up and Air is on an indefinite hiatus. It just, more than it being an immediate loss to there being more Daft Punk albums, it just feels very much like the end of an era. If I wanted to frame this in an AV forum sense as to why I think this is quite sad, though, obviously Daft Punk, as well as the main albums, they did the soundtrack or the score more appropriately for Tron Legacy. And I make no secret, I think that's one of the finest scores of the last 20 years. I mean, it's attached to a terrible film, but it's an unbelievably good score.
That's a little harsh on Tron Legacy, but you're right. It's a soundtrack you can listen to without needing the film.
Exactly. My hope had always been that there was going to be some more of those, because it was a truly astonishing effort. And other French electronic artists have done some magnificent scores as well. I mean, Air obviously got in on it very early with the Virgin Suicides. M83 did the Oblivion soundtrack. I was hoping for another couple of Daft Punk arranged scores, and this would suggest that there isn't going to be any more of those. And I think that's a shame. Otherwise, no, 28 years, 3 great albums and 1 indifferent one, plus 2 astonishing live albums. If you've heard neither of the 2 live albums or had the luxury of seeing them live for real, which I'm delighted to say is a rare thing me saying with bands splitting up, I have actually seen them twice. It's an end of an era thing. I mean, obviously it hasn't been, it's been a long time since they actually released any physical material. I think we'd sort of assumed they'd done this anyway. As I say, for me, it's more about it being the end of an era than anything, being gutted that there isn't going to be another Daft Punk album.
No, there's plenty of material there, and which I'd forgotten about a lot of the stuff. It wasn't until Tidal had a playlist the day it was announced, and I put the playlist on. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that one, and I forgot about that one as well. And it's rediscovering the back catalogue. I'm just disappointed that Stuart didn't take the opportunity there to put an image up of Mando and Boba Fett under.
So it's as I say, it's an era thing. But I mean, there's great new artists, French electronic artists, who are very clear about what they've, who their inspirations are, and so on and so forth. And they are, they're flying the flag. If nothing else, I'd rather a band call it quits than keep producing subpar, embarrassing stuff. So that's as much that's the positive spin to it. So thank you, Daft Punk, and good night.
Were you a fan, Greg?
No, I don't want to be a heathen, but I wouldn't know a Daft Punk song if it was playing. So
well,
honest.
Greg, there is your homework.
Ooh.
That's a Daft Punk reference, by the way.
Right.
What, you mean like that one?
That's the one.
So,
Oh, this was always going to end in a disaster, wasn't it? Sitting Ed next to his records, he's going to be pulling. He'll know exactly which one is.
Only if you, they are alphabetized, but only if you talk about artists within the C to E spectrum.
Well, moving on swiftly before we go to software, a little bit of what Greg's been up to. So you got some products in for review. Interesting TP-Link system you got in, Greg. Maybe tell us quickly about that.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, especially with lockdown, the demands on the internet and Wi-Fi at home, I think, have never been more. With the kids off school, everyone working from, most people working from home, and then Wi-Fi in every room is a real problem, especially if you've got certain houses. I mean, ours is about 45-year-old house, but the walls just seem to suck the Wi-Fi out. So I've got the TP-Link. It's the Deco X20. It comes with 3 small little units that you put in various locations around the house. Well, one goes near the router, and then you've got 2 more. And it creates a mesh Wi-Fi system, which, compared to an extender, the mesh Wi-Fi, they talk to each other rather than an extender goes back to the router and then back again. The mesh systems all talk to each other, so you can daisy chain them as many as you want. And it's working really well. I can get my full internet speed in every room, and even a bit outside as well. So it's looking a good system. They're not cheap though, the mesh Wi-Fi at the moment. It's about £270. So compared to sort of power line adapters.
If you are working from home, simply suggest to your company that it's absolutely imperative that for your productivity and sanity that they buy it for you.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Phil.
Yeah. So it's the review should be up in about a week, maybe a bit less. But yeah, no, they still are expensive mesh Wi-Fi systems. So, but they do the job. They get Wi-Fi everywhere in the house.
Yeah, I've got a major issue with that here because obviously my house is 250, 300-year-old. So the walls are at least a meter thick.
Oh.
Certainly the structural walls are a meter thick. There's some false walls, but most of them are a meter thick. So getting any Wi-Fi around the house has always been a challenge. And funnily enough, when I got Sky in, and I got the Sky with the small box as well, so I've got the main 4K box and then the small box, actually works as a mesh system as well, because I've got the Sky router for my broadband as well, so they all talk to each other, and I've got no issues now. Every corner of the house, I've got excellent Wi-Fi, so they're worth having a system like that, especially if you've got an old house like I have, where you can't get Wi-Fi through the walls, and it takes most of the day to heat the place up, especially if it's cold.
Yeah, I mean, especially people streaming. You can have several people trying to stream 4K at once, or gaming and all kinds of things.
My son consumes more data in a day than I think I did between my birth and leaving university. I was trying to work this out. I think that's a genuinely applicable statistic. The moment that children are involved in your household, and let's not forget most of us they're not going to school, or hopefully not too much longer, just the sheer load they place on your internet infrastructure is off the clocks. So if this alleviates that, I am all for it.
I think it's probably time that we move things on because we've got software to get through, and there's lots to talk about there as well. But before we do, the ident that was supposed to run between us saying what we did this last week and then into hardware, it caused the software that we used to crash, unfortunately. And that ident was telling you how you could donate. So I guess I need to tell you how you can donate this evening. You can do that through streamlabs.com/AV forums. You can donate any amount you like and attach a question to that, and it is appreciated. Or you can become a supporter through Patreon and become a patron. And it's lovely to see more and more of you deciding to do that. It's £3 a month. And we will be adding more and more features. We are at the moment looking at what we can do in terms of maybe giving early access to some of the editorial content. You can get to read Ed's reviews ahead of time before the rest of the forums and so on. If we can do it, we're going to bring stuff like that to you as well if you support us through Patreon. And once we get the videos up and running again, we'll even look at giving you a quick sneak peek, even if it's 24 hours ahead of everybody else. You can get to see our content, and it is appreciated for you guys supporting us. It really does help us improve the site speed and the features, and obviously putting these podcasts together and so on. So it is appreciated. Thank you very much. MJ Kearney became a patron this last week. Thank you very much for that. And Yatish Narandas, I hope I said that correctly. He became a patron as well this week. Thank you very much. It really is appreciated. And if you are here, if you're watching us at the moment, the other thing that you can do to help us out and get the podcast noticed and help us with the old YouTube algorithm is to give us a like. So if you are around at the minute and you enjoy the podcast, you enjoy the information, asking questions and all the rest of it, then please do hit that like button. It really does help us in terms of being found by people who maybe don't know of AV Forums and don't know us, and they can come and find us and become a member of our cult. Please do that. Hit the like button. Right, so we will be back in a sec with software.
If you enjoy the podcast on YouTube, then please like and subscribe. If you're listening to the audio version, then please leave us a rating on your podcast app. We invite you to email questions and feedback to podcast@avforums.com and join in with this episode's discussion thread in the podcasts forum at AV Forums.
And like that, Kaz reappears. It's software time. We're going to talk about films and all other junk like that, TV shows and stuff that you can sit and watch with your snacks and get fat in front of the TV. That's what we like doing. We spend all our money on the equipment and then we sit down and watch it. before we do that, though, Ed's going to quickly run us through the best of the month when it comes to albums, playlists, and vinyl. And he's going to do this without reaching to his left-hand side and pulling out a record.
No, because it hasn't arrived yet. Right, album of the month. And I didn't think I was going to be the one that said this, but I am. It's David Gray. Remember David Gray? David Gray never went away. He released an album called Skellig. I think that's how it's pronounced. And the first time I listened to it, I was like, it's nice. It sort of happens in the background and so on and so forth. But the more I listen to it, this is a genuinely beautiful piece of music. The more I listen to it, the more some of the cleverness, some of the things that the hooks that made some of his early work, it's still there. It's just slowed down and more considered. This is an absolutely beautiful piece of songcraft. Thoroughly enjoyed listening to it. It is, incidentally, if you're a Qobuz subscriber, there is a 2496 Qobuz version, and it sounds absolutely phenomenal in terms of free, well, not free, music included in your subscription. You cannot do too much better than this. It sounds absolutely phenomenal. Just straight feed off Qobuz. Honorable mentions. It was actually one of the first weeks where there was some good music. Full stop. Haim, the US lady band, whether that's the technical phrase, I don't know. After hiatus, they released a cracking album this week, and I'm going to possibly upset Tom here because they are of his part of the world. Mogwai released an album as well. Now, Mogwai has never necessarily been my oeuvre, but this does appear. If you like Mogwai, this is a really nice. It's a really nice addition to the catalogue. It doesn't necessarily break any new ground. It's been getting some good reviews. That's also on all the major streaming services as well. Vinyl release of the month. I'm going to take the unusual step of prephasing my recommendation by pointing out that this is not a good album. In terms of listening to it, you'll go, this is odd. However, if like me, you are a fan of electronic music, electronica, dance music, and so on and so forth, there is a vinyl reissue of a US band called Silver Apples. And the album is, imaginatively enough, called Silver Apples. And I don't wish to dismiss the impact of Delia Derbyshire and so many other pioneers of producing electronic music. But this, in terms of electronic music with a view to you dancing to it, this is Genesis. This is the first page. You are looking at the first album ever of its sort from 1968. And as you might imagine, the technology available in 1968, it's odd, but nevertheless, this is a phenomenally important piece of music. If there's an element with, like as there is with many of the film fans, an element of having some of the curation of how you started down the path to where we are now, this is absolutely vital. To the extent where I have put my reservations about the fact that some of the songs are actually bloody awful to one side. I have paid £29 for my copy of this. Some of you, as you can see, it was the first pressing of this Jackpot release was in 2016, but it was a very small run, and I had other things to do at the time. So yeah, it's really more about owning something where you own the first of it, and as you might imagine, owning a first pressing is astronomically expensive because it didn't fly off the shelves in 1968. So yeah, that's the vinyl release of the month. Playlist of the month takes us back to Daft Punk. Phil was mentioning that there are numerous Daft Punk playlists doing the rounds. I haven't gone quite as route one as that. There is a playlist on Qobuz, again, called French Touch, which feeds into my absolute adoration of French electronica. It's got a bit of Daft Punk in there and so on and so forth. But if you're interested in moving beyond the headline acts the sort of the more famous bits and bobs, there's some good stuff on there. Some acts that will bring you to a wider awareness of just how broad and just how brilliant a category of music it is. As I say, it's possibly my single favorite category of music that there is. And as you might imagine, a French streaming service going long on French electronica, they've done quite a good job of it. So yeah, that's easily my playlist of the month as well. There we go, Phil. Music hardware done, software done.
Excellent. Thanks so much for that. Right, so let's move on to the best film of the month. And let's go to Kaz first of all. So Kaz, what was your favourite film of the month and why?
Well, I'm going to put forward Kajillionaire because it surprised me. I didn't expect it to be as enjoyable as it was. I thought it was. Tell
us a little bit about that, then, if we haven't seen it.
I think I previously covered it, but it's Evan Rachel Wood. In what I mean, given the highly public revelations that have come out about certain things to do with her history, I think unfortunately, it's probably quite a personal journey for her. She plays a character who is part of to put it softly, a dysfunctional family where she's basically been raised to be the perfect grifter, and they go around stealing using very innovative techniques, and it's a lot of fun, but it's kind of her voyage of self-discovery towards being apart from her very manipulative parents. I mean, it's a dark comedy. There's a lot of wit in there, but there's a lot of heart as well. Tremendous performance from Wood. I mean, it's interesting to think about her trajectory in Westworld, because I wouldn't have necessarily pegged her to have been the star, but come the end of the third season, that her and possibly Thandie Newton are. She's had an interesting personal background and definitely committed to some tough projects. And I was impressed by her work in this. And it sidestepped my expectations, because I thought it'd be okay, and it turned out to be really good and unexpectedly deep.
Okay, good stuff. So if we haven't seen that, then we'll go and check it out. So that's Kaz's film of the month. Tom, I've got a funny feeling yours is going to be the same as my pick, but on you go.
Wrong turn.
Maybe. Well, strangely, this month I've basically been watching the stuff, excuse me, that Kaz has been reviewing. I mean, if we want to get technical, what has been happening is Kaz has been asking me to watch stuff, and I've been saying, yeah, nah. And then he's reviewed it, and then I've watched it anyway, which is just a real kick in the shins for him. And I'm not sorry. Yeah, I will probably have to go with News of the World, but only on a technicality, because I really wanted to promote Promising Young Woman, but we are still without a release date for it. So please keep your eyes open for that. With whatever month it comes out in, it will undoubtedly be my film of the month.
Okay, well, News of the World's my film of the month as well. And if people are listening at the minute and they want to hear a bit more in depth and our thoughts and so on, we covered it in the Movies podcast. Did you know that we've got a Movies podcast? If you didn't, then we do. The first one was out 15th. So if you look back in the playlist, you will find the Movies podcast, and you want to hear more about News of the World. We went into some depth without spoilers. So I've got to point out we didn't go into any spoilers, but we did cover it in depth. So go and check out the Movies podcast for a bit more. But yes, that would be my film of the month as well, News of the World. Anybody else want to add anything in here? Greg, you've been watching anything film-wise that you think we should know about?
No, the last film I watched was Greenland, which was okay. It was good.
Okay.
Sort of
good for Gerard Butler.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was a decent enough film. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed Greenland.
Yeah.
And I think they've just dropped the 4K version, I think, on Amazon.
Yes, they have.
Annoyingly, for all those who've already watched it.
Yeah.
But, I think it's HDR10 as well, Kaz.
Yeah.
Feeling so. Yeah, you see, you're getting in too early with these things. That's is there any point me asking you, Ed, Or should we
Are we
move on?
talking about Star at another time?
We're talking about it a little bit later on
Yeah,
tonight.
there we go. That's
Yes.
fine. As you might imagine, I haven't watched anything that's happened recently.
Recently, yeah, okay. So it's 10 years ago for...
Yeah.
I'm going to
at least.
take Ed's pick so I can talk about Wrong Turn.
Moving on.
God, spoil sport. Unbelievable.
Well,
It's great.
I'm looking at the list here, and we've got lots to get through.
There's
So
much to do.
before we move on to TV show of the month and disc of the month, let's look at some of the film and TV news, Kaz. So fill us in on some of this.
Sure. Well, Apple's just released its trailer for a remake of Mosquito Coast with Justin Theroux in the lead. It looks contemporary. It looks interesting if they go down a different angle. I mean, I think Theroux's a good choice. I liked him in The Leftovers. And Apple are consistently good. I wouldn't say they knock a huge amount of outstanding out of the park, but there's nothing on Apple that I've ever
They do
turned
seem
my
to be
nose
doing
up
a
at.
smaller quantity of higher quality
Yeah.
content.
They do. They've got a good record. So what's interesting is they're releasing this end of April, and they're going up head to head with Amazon's big Tom Clancy Without Remorse adaptation, which introduces the world to the character of John Clark in his first solo outing. I mean, we've seen him in a bunch of movies, Clear and Present Danger. Willem Dafoe played him, and Liv Schreiber, I think, in Sum of All Fears. I mean, you know, he's been done some disservice, I think, by not getting some screen time. I know he's not Jack Ryan, but he's a beloved character. But the whole Clancy estate has been in dispute pretty much since I think since Clancy sold Hunt for Red October to the Naval Academy, and left them wondering whether now they own all of his books, which I would have thought.
I mean, to be honest, I have to say it's all playing around until someone gives me the televised, and it can't be done as a film. It needs to be a television series of Red Storm Rising. I'm just going to consider they're not trying hard enough. I want World War III on my television.
It really depends. It really depends how they go about it, because they appear to be kind of edging into his back catalogue, very wary of lawyers and disputes. I'm not really sure what Without Remorse is going to be like. You know, Amazon have a bit of a hit and miss track record, but I have fears that it's going to be a bit more shadow. What was it? Shadow Recruit, that bland,
the one with Chris Pine in it.
Yeah, that bland entry that was basically done for similar reasons to Never Say Never Again.
That's a strange film, isn't it? Because if good is an absence of bad, it's a good film. If good is an objectively set of positive qualities, that's more of a problem.
Well, from what I heard, the part of the problem with that book was that there was this dispute over his books, but not over the character. So they thought, well, okay, let's just make a movie about Jack Ryan. And that's what happens when you try and make a movie about Jack Ryan and don't have a book. Clearly, you just make him a generic kind of James Bond, whatever character who runs as fast as a car and beats everybody up. I mean, but that's not really Jack Ryan from the books.
No.
So it'd be interesting to see what they do with Without Remorse, whether they give us a John Clark, or whether they give us just another spin on Jason Bourne, which is my feeling. We also got Netflix doing their big blockbuster, which is Snyder's Army of the Dead. That's in May. And you know, before that we get Justice League. Snyder got 4 hours of that.
Hooray!
It's a good month for Zack Snyder fans.
It is indeed. Yeah.
Good luck to him.
All 10 of them.
All 9.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
You've got one more than me.
Yeah, I counted myself. Yeah, sorry. But I mean, of course, cinemas are going to reopen around this time. Well, theoretically.
What you mean? So we can all flock off to see Bond? And I did say flock.
No, they're not. They're not going to release Bond. They're going to wait until cinemas are closed again, and then try. Almost certainly, they're going to miss their window again. I suspect it'll be another couple of years before they get the timing right. I don't know why they don't want to release it in the summer, but they're gonna put it off. And
yeah, in other words, we'll reopen for summer.
Yeah.
We'll have a new and exciting virus to deal with by October, and we won't watch it again.
Yeah,
So
we won't watch. Yeah, they won't, and they still won't release it on streaming, which is fair enough. But I suspect they keep missing their windows.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting times, because there are some choice titles coming to streaming. I wonder what'll entice us all back in to the big screen.
Well, nothing was enticing beforehand.
I'm not unexcited about Army of the Dead, just simply because Dawn of the Dead was, I think, the last Zack Snyder movie that I liked all the way through without caveat. I thought, hey, that was a good film, a really good film. Maybe if he goes back to, but he won't. I mean, this is wishful thinking of the highest order. But if he goes back to his roots with that, then it could be a really decent zombie movie.
I think he'll probably wait and give us the director's cut in a few years of Army of the Dead, which might be, better, because he likes doing director's cut a few years later.
I know so little about cinema, Tom. I've just had to check on the internet. Everyone will have just seen me there. That I thought for a second you were talking about the 1978 version. God, how old is Zack Snyder? No, and I thought that was definitely. I've not seen the 2004 version. I consider it to be blasphemy and haven't gone anywhere near it, because the original is one of my all-time favorites.
Agreed, and you will be, I think, pleasantly surprised by the remake.
I will take that under advisement. I do mean that positively. That's not me saying
it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like that's going at the bottom of the list.
No, if I can find it without having to pay additional sums of money, I'll give it a whirl.
The poster for Army of the Dead is a shocker, though. Whoever made that, they probably could do with not working in marketing anymore, because it's just nonsense. It makes it look like a Las Vegas bank heist.
But have you seen the last 5 Bond posters?
Well,
you could mirror them with the last 5 straight to video Seagal movie posters, which is just absurd. It's Bond.
Tom, have I ever sent you that? I've got a saved link somewhere where there's a Canadian film club who did their own Predator poster, and it makes it look like a romantic comedy.
No, but that sounds beautiful,
magnificent. I'll find it for you and send it along.
Right. For those of us who still collect physical media, I know we're a dying breed, and I haven't bought a disc in 2021, so part of the problem here, I think. But what can we buy, Kaz?
Well, yeah, there hasn't been much out. I mean, they are announcing stuff. There is juicy stuff coming. There's Drive coming to 4K, courtesy of Second Sight in the UK. I mean, it's tremendous use. It's going to be a tremendous year for 4K if we get Drive. But it's been slow, a slow start to the year. Still, Sony's Elysium 4K disc was unsurprisingly spectacular. It's a really nice disc, and that's my 4K choice. And I really enjoyed revisiting it. I think after getting over the fact that it wasn't perhaps living up to the legacy of District 9, I think in its own right, and post Chappie and whatever else, it was very enjoyable to watch Elysium. And I still yearn for all of the Alien and whatever other movies he could have done since, which he's been denied. But that's my 4K disc, and it's probably pretty much one of the very few 4K discs of choice you could get.
Yeah, there hasn't been much coming out, has there? I've yet to see this. I watched the first 10 minutes on a flight.
You've never seen Elysium?
Well, like I say, I watched the first 10 minutes on a flight, and then decided, actually, I want to see this on a big screen.
Yeah.
And I've never gotten around to watching it.
I think you'd really like it, Phil.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm not lending it to you because I know what happens, but I think you'd really like it.
Suicide mission.
And what normally happens when you lend me stuff, Kaz?
I have no idea. I've never had it returned, so I have no idea what happened.
Hey,
it's a one-way
what did
trip.
you say? You said as long as I have it back.
Oh yes, you can have it until they release the next Fast and the Furious film. Yes,
and
you're right.
It's worked to my advantage that it's been cancelled.
So in other words, you now have to wait until the heat death of the universe.
Yeah.
I've just seen that poster pop up here. Very good. Excellent. Anything else on disc that we need to know about?
I really like Possessor. I think I've been a little bit disappointed by David Cronenberg's output of late. It's kind of drifted a little bit away from some of his body horror classics, and his son, Brandon, has done a really good hard body horror sci-fi with Possessor. I mean, it's good, it's dark, it's got some great ideas. Basically body possessing assassins. So it's a sci-fi about people who can possess another body in order to commit an assassination job, and it's very well done.
It's it's incredible. I got it on Blu-ray, saw it for the first time this month as a result of Kaz's review, and it takes some really big swings, and it doesn't always work out for the movie, but it is so good to see like an idea that I have not seen done before. There's like, without hitting spoiler territory, there's a moment in it which is very visually distinct and shows this process of possession in turmoil, and it is one of the darkest, most upsetting, non-graphic scenes initially, and it is amazing. It's something that I've never seen before, which is not worth nothing.
Something fair to say.
So it is slow for disc. I've been looking to try and see what's coming up, Kaz, and not a lot. It's listed at the minute, so we're going to be waiting a while, I think, for things to speed up again when it comes to physical media. Or are we seeing the end? Maybe that's a subject for another day. Maybe a movies podcast.
I mean, the fact that Aliens is supposed to have been remastered, the Alien sequels are supposed to have been remastered in 4K with Dolby Vision, I believe, makes everyone think that there could be a disc announced soon. I mean, it's things like that, the indie sets. I mean, it's gonna be another one of those years where we think nothing's coming out, and then like last year, you get Back to the Future, you get Hitchcock box set, you get a whole bunch of real classic titles, and people suddenly realize, nope, not dead yet.
Yep.
It's just been a slow start.
Cool. Like I say, it's a subject we could probably fill a full movies podcast about after physical media and all the rest of it. So we'll no doubt come back to that one. So let's move on to TV show of the month. Who wants to jump in first here? Greg, do you have a TV show of the month that you think we should all check out?
Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's got a really bizarre name. It's Winx, the Fate Saga, or Fate Saga Winx. Winx is it? It's a show that you'd think is sort of like a teen show, but it's only 6 episodes, and it has got a second season, and it's actually really good. It's quite adult in places. It does stray into the sort of the teen era in a few places, but it's really worth watching. And I haven't seen it mentioned much on the forums, so I'm not sure it's been.
It's a hidden gem.
It is. It's an odd one because Winx was a cartoon, like a Barbie with powers style cartoon that my daughter, 7-year-old daughter, watched, and it's just a bunch of fairy witches who sing a song in order to enact their powers, and do something. I don't know. It involves dresses. Anyway, so this live action Winx came across, and she must have seen the trailer on Netflix, and she was like, "Oh, I really want to watch this." I watched the first.
Nowhere near it.
I watched the first couple of minutes without her because that's the sensible parental choice to do. There's like some dead body on the floor with its throat ripped out, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't what so I suspect the reason why it's been kind of gone under the radar is because a lot of people are going to be thinking, hey, that's a live action adaptation of that song where the girls do a dance and get superpowers. I mean, it's going to be a hard sell for people who know what Winx is, which is a shame, because until you said the words, I probably wouldn't have gone back to it. Other than the throat ripping did look quite good, but
yeah, no, it's I think it's doing quite well on Netflix according to the reports, and they have given it a second season fairly early on. So
yeah, that's so they can annoy you by not giving it a third. That's
they do have those worrying metrics, don't they? Like 6 billion people watched the first 3 seconds of Six Underground. Only 14 made it to the last 3 seconds. It's
right. Ed, you got a selection for your TV of the month?
I've been watching very little TV, Phil. Actually, I should say no new TV other than routinely watching Air Crash Investigation. I will be of more use to you as of Monday when MasterChef kicks off.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been watching Elderly Tat on television, so not relevant.
There's some new Forged in Fire coming. And
yes, I've seen that as well.
There's a new spin-off Forged in Fire coming as well. So
has it got an assault course in it again? Because that was not a happy combination. Although who would have thought that an uncooked chicken could be the level of formidable opponent that the uncooked chicken was in the one with the assault course? And if you have no idea what we're talking about, I'm afraid you just have to watch it. Yeah, simple words will describe.
It's world-class TV, it really is.
I'm just checking the live chat, because if anybody's playing AV Forums podcast bingo, you can guarantee someone's just shouted house.
What, for Forged in Fire?
Yeah. No, but we had the
MasterChef
investigation.
Aircraft investigation.
and I'm just about to talk about WandaVision and The Expanse. So yeah, somebody's bound to have had a full house by now. Yeah, I haven't watched anything new. Obviously, I've been looking forward to Disney Star, which we're going to talk about in a sec. So yeah, I've just been trying to get through Expanse. WandaVision's, it's getting really good now. I do hope that when we get to the end of the series, they cut it all together as one long show, so we don't have to sit and go back through all the credits and all the rest. Because the one thing I've noticed is there's no skip credits, is there? So you have to sit and go through the credits each and every time.
And they are very long credits.
Yeah, so I'd like to see them cut it all into one long version at the end. Hopefully they'll do that, so you can sit and watch it all in one long go, because it'll make more sense. Yeah, it's what they like to do with these Marvel series and films and all the rest of it. There's little things, little Easter eggs that I know when you go back and watch it a second or third time, you're going to pick up on. Yeah, always happens like that. So yeah, I'm enjoying both of those. But yeah, the list of things to watch, I tried to get through the Muppet Show. It's one of those things, don't go back to things that you've got fond memories of. Your childhood.
So does that mean that as I hate it, I might rewatch it and go, oh, this is all right? Or will I hate it even more?
Probably. I mean,
still hate it.
I to be fair, I only went through the first 2 episodes. But interestingly, there is a disclaimer up against it, which I thought was interesting that they've done that, and I'm just trying to bring it up just because it's really quite.
Isn't it the attitudes there?
Yes.
Yeah. We had one of those on Total Recall, didn't we?
Oh, wasn't someone on Twitter saying that if you're a frog, you shouldn't try and have sexual congress with a pig? Because I mean, to be honest, that's pretty evergreen advice. That doesn't date. In
how
fairness.
Attitudes have changed.
Different times.
Yeah.
You know what? They've withdrawn it. It's not here now.
I think because they were roundly mocked. It's what frogs don't marry pigs. No.
Maybe it only pops up the first time you watch it.
Yeah, I can see why it was there, because the first episode, the opening skit was a fight in a pub. But you think, this is not really kids' TV, and it was really quite full on as well. It's like, well, hang on a minute. Yeah, they've done away with it. I've just gone on to Disney Plus there, and it's gone now. So anyway, yeah, I gave that a go. I'll probably just pick out the ones where I know the stars. Like, I think there's definitely a Mark Hamill one there that I distinctly remember from my childhood watching when Empire Strikes Back came out. So yeah, I think I'll just hunt those ones out and watch those. But yeah, TV wise, usual for me. Kaz?
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned WandaVision, and that's tremendous viewing. So it has been particularly interesting watching the complete about turn of people who ditched it after the first couple of episodes. Yeah, I really liked it. But I would probably say that despite only having seen the first episode, I really, really liked for coming back to For All Mankind for its second season. It's really tremendous viewing. And the final few minutes were very tense and very well done. I like the show. It's like an alternative past where we lose the space race, and as a result of losing,
Who's we?
The US, the West, lose the space race against the Russians, and as a result of that, they get all offended pride-wise and invest all the money in space that wasn't invested at the time, and the progress they've made is interesting. Because it's progress that we're nowhere near now, and yeah, it's a really good show, very well done. I'm also enjoying Yellowstone, which is now 3 years old but has only just come out in the UK on digital to buy and on Blu-ray next month. That's the Costner neo-western from Taylor Sheridan, who did Hell or High Water and Wind River, and wrote Sicario. So that's tremendous.
I thought you were talking about the natural history documentary about Yellowstone Park. That's what I thought.
No,
the one with the super volcano. That's brilliant.
Yeah,
the Wolf family.
Incidentally, that super volcano is going off on the 22nd of June 2021. We will announce the complete ending of COVID restrictions, and then the world will be thrown into permanent winter by the Yellowstone supervolcano.
As long as the pubs are up on the edge, you'll be fine with that.
Well, yes, I will die of exposure in the pub. Probably happy,
egg.
in fairness.
Have I missed anybody? Tom, your TVs?
Yeah, the very beginning of the month was the release of 000, which if you've not seen it, then you really should. It's an organized crime series, which is focused on the interlocking stories of 3 elements in a sale of a shipment of 5 tons of pure cocaine. And it is really, I don't know, bold TV. Like it's got a really demanding structure, these 3 stories and how they interweave with each other. It's full of great performances. Everyone who has seen it, I think it's safe to say, has loved it, and a lot of people have loved it even more than I did. And as we've seen in the past, my opinions often do not reflect the opinions of the forums, but this time it seems to have got a unanimous hit.
Every now and again it does happen as a reviewer, whether you're reviewing hardware or software, you hit a zeitgeist, and it's a wonderful group hug of a thing. It doesn't happen very often, however.
Yeah, don't get too used to it.
Yeah.
It's got some really great performances in. Andrea Riseborough is in it, who's also in Possessor, which was
she is a phenomenal actress.
She's awesome, and she's really great in this. And Dane DeHaan is in it as well, who I had previously not been so sure about. He rubbish in the Spider-Man movies, good in Kill Your Darlings, the Allen Ginsberg movie, but he's great in this. At the beginning, I thought he was kind of a dead weight, but he really, really makes it work. So there's a storyline of US brokers who own a shipping company who are going to move the cocaine. There is the cartel who have produced or procured the cocaine, and they are selling it to the Italians who are buying the cocaine. And it just basically follows this deal from all those 3 angles and all the things that can go wrong with it. And it's absolutely gripping, and cycles back to one of the things that you mentioned earlier, Ed, which was that Mogwai do have a new album, but they also have a soundtrack album out right now, which is the soundtrack for 000.
Oh, now I'm always a fan of how bands approach soundtracks, so I shall give that a listen.
It is just great. Great.
Okay, I will crack on with that.
Yeah.
No question.
So as far as I know, it's still all up on Sky and Now TV. How long that will be true for, I don't know, but it's not super long. I think it's 8 episodes, maybe 10.
tend to do it for a month or two, then it'll disappear and then it'll come back as a box set.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
right. But definitely check it out if you haven't yet, because it's something pretty special.
Okay, good stuff. Is that everything from you, Tom, in terms of TV wise?
I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
good stuff. Before we go any further, thanks for all your likes. Please do keep hitting the like button. Like I say, it does help us. I hope you are enjoying the show this evening. And we are just about wrapping up. We're going to go and discuss a little bit about Star, because Star has been launched. For our US followers, I don't believe you get Star. So Star is like the Disney Plus outside of the US content, 18 plus content.
It seems to be quite Hulu related, is it not? Or is
yes,
that different again?
there is a little bit of that. So we're going to discuss that in a second, but there's a couple of donations that I need to go through. So first of all, definitely not Hiroshi. Donated $4.99 through Super Chat. Thank you very much. He says, Sasha 6, here we come. I'm assuming that is a music related quote there, Ed.
It doesn't. I'm afraid it doesn't ring any bells. But I have been drinking wine all evening. So
I think it came through when you were discussing album or playlist or whatever. So I think that's what that was aimed at. And Dredder has donated $12 through Super Chat. So thank you very much to both of you for your donations this evening. That really is appreciated. Right, so let's wrap up on the podcast. Let's cover our final subject tonight, which is Disney Plus Star. I think all of us probably jumped on the 23rd, which was yesterday. Seems like a week ago. So all the days running together and all the rest of it. So yes, it is. I noticed it's free, and my renewal on the 23rd is only $59.99. So
yes, same as me.
If you are a subscriber at the moment, you don't get charged for this for the next year, which is great. It's fantastic. Well worth the money, because just having a quick flick through Kaz, noticed there was lots and lots of really interesting content. Now, not everything was going to be in 4K. I don't think we thought that was going to be the case, but surprisingly, quite a bit is in terms of technical side of things, 4K and HDR. And I think a good rule of thumb, as I was going through it, was if it's had a 4K disc release or another 4K release elsewhere, it was likely to be 4K on Disney Plus, and that tends to be the case. But there's also some surprises in there, which you've noted in terms of the diehards.
Yeah, you can check out Die Hard 2, 3, and 4 in HDR. Yeah, in HDR. So
the actual best Christmas movie ever made is now in 4K HDR.
No, in HDR, but it would. I mean, I don't know what you think, Phil, but I think it signifies that they might have a 4K release up their sleeve.
Well,
at
I mean,
some point.
the odd thing is that Die Hard 5 is Dolby Vision. The other,
yes,
that was HDR 10.
Yeah.
And then that one's Dolby Vision for some strange reason. So.
But I mean, it's funny that they've picked out those. I wouldn't be surprised if they do. They've released Die Hard in 4K, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is the first start to it, and maybe we find these titles are upgraded to 4K later in the year, and then there's a disc release. But they all entice me. I mean, there's some old sets that I don't think had Blu-ray releases that have come in HD, and I mean, it's a hell of a selection.
Some really good stuff there. I mean, Ed Wood jumped out straight away. I'm going to have an evening watching that, because it's a real favourite of mine. I'm trying to remember which year that would have been. Was that 94?
What, Die Hard 2?
No, Ed
Oh,
Wood.
so no, but no, the thing is, what I admire about Star is that they have very clearly identified the desire that we have, especially at this phase of lockdown, to watch Tat. As well as some properly good things. Please do not take this to be a derogatory statement. There's some really enjoyable Tat that they've put on that. I am going to watch Romancing the Stone and Jewel of the Nile as a double bill this weekend. I will not be sober, and I will be enjoying it tremendously. So there you go.
Some questions coming up. Paying monthly, is this extra then? I don't know, Craig. You'd have to check, but you should be getting. It's just I got my renewal through email through this week, and that's what it said. So, and I've seen quite a few people have the same thing. If you're paying monthly, if you've been paying for the last 12 months monthly, I would like to think that they wouldn't charge you for it. That it would continue as long as you keep your subscription going. your monthly payment's gone. But I would check it out. I'd go and check the small print on the website just to make
Yeah,
sure.
I think it's August. I think if you've got a current subscription, it doesn't go up until August. I'm sure it's
August. Yeah,
It's
that's right.
pay monthly subscription.
Yeah.
So in
Yeah,
other words,
you won't be charged any
if you
extra.
can spend out for the annual, you'll make a
You'll make
saving.
Oh
it.
yeah.
If you can get the annual for $59.99, it's well worth it. Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
the way they've released it, it seems to me that like it's just another Disney option. So I don't think that they'll separate it and ever give it an extra fee.
No.
It's just like having a
just-
Marvel channel
No,
or whatever.
it's just that the fee goes up. That's all. So
Yes, I
that's-
think that that's hopefully as Greg said, it's August.
Baba Boba says it's Star coming soon. It's available now, 23rd.
Went live yesterday.
Released. You need to sign into your account again, and you need to click the allow
Make sure
18
that
plus.
if you're watching it on a smart TV or PlayStation or whatever, that you've allowed the app to update.
That's the other thing. But you'll find that if you go to log in anyway, it will automatically update.
It
so
will,
log out and then go to log in again to activate it. And it pops up as a box at the top of the home page. So it's nice and easy to find. Some great content on there that I'm really looking forward to get through. Family Guy, lots of the Family Guys that have
and the
missed for a
American
long time.
Dads.
American Dads. are on there.
To be honest, can I just be clear about this? My aspirations for streaming services are quite low these days. Netflix, if anyone from Netflix is on the amazing off chance listening to this podcast, rather than hitting me with an expensive but indifferent movie every couple of weeks, I would rather nostalgically mine content. Now, I may not be a majority on this, but Star at the moment, simply by making, and we were talking, I was pontificating about this in our Skype conversation group, but are Chain Reaction, Terminal Velocity, and Titan AE good films? Absolutely not.
Titan AE is.
Titan AE is a good
Titan
film.
AE is brilliant. Fantastic.
Objectively a good film, Ed, you've been told.
All right,
Yep.
fine. I'll take that under advisement. But nevertheless, I haven't watched any of them in donkey's years, and I'm going to sit down and lovingly watch them all again
Yep.
because they are there in the subscription. And of course, I'll look at the new content and all the rest of it. But whenever I see Andy do his magnificent "What's New on Netflix this month," it's like lots of new, but other than Bird on a Wire mysteriously appearing, which is
awesome,
which I
yeah.
am fond of.
Yeah.
It's just when on a Saturday night, I'm now old. I want to occasionally just watch a nostalgic film.
There is lots of stuff on Netflix though, Ed. The trouble is that 600 titles just appeared on Star, and so you're like, oh, I'm in Toys R Us.
Oh, I know what you're saying. Star has absolutely. I mean, let's be honest. For my annual subscription, the fact that I can watch Idiocracy, Office Space, and Super Troopers as many times as I like whenever I want is probably enough, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Because my aspirations are very low.
No, I'm with you. There was lots of films that I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to watch that again. I'm going to watch it again. And you mentioned Netflix, American Graffiti. I haven't seen American Graffiti.
I haven't. No, I will rewatch that.
Yeah.
And Phil, as I say, the question's open to you as to where Harrison Ford's car in American Graffiti, what had it been doing before American Graffiti?
Do you win a Blu-ray?
He won it at Orlando. Yeah.
It wasn't built. It wasn't built for American Graffiti. It'd actually been sitting unloved on the lot for God knows how long. It'd been in another film.
I'll have a look. Was that you offering me a Blu-ray?
I don't have any Blu-rays to offer you.
No, Kaz.
No, I was saying, do you win a Blu-ray if you manage to guess this correct? A Laserdisc. The
only person I know watching this who may know this is Chevy on Fuel, because he's big into the cast. As I say, it's the film it was in is not exactly a box office megastar, but nevertheless the car appeared in a different film, sprayed a different color before it appeared in American Graffiti.
Okay.
It'll be interesting to see whether Star picks up some more originals. As we briefly mentioned at the start, it's supposed to pick up the content from the US only Hulu sites, so that in turn has led to Big Sky, which premiered on Hulu, and they're calling it a Star original, which is a very slick and over-engineered detective serial killer hunt thingy. It's all right, but it's not a great start for an original. And it'd be interesting to see where they go. They got an Alien, Ridley Scott produced Alien series in the works. Fingers crossed that turns out to be good. But if they do use all of Hulu's stuff and they do it day and date, which obviously haven't been able to do so far, that does mean Boss Level next month, which I'm very excited about. Well, excited about watching again. But yes,
I don't even know what that is.
It's like a cross between Crank and Edge of Tomorrow. Does that work for you, Ed?
Do you know what? Weirdly, it does. So thank you. Yes, I'll give that a whirl.
So it's a lot of fun. It's Frank Grillo and Mel Gibson repeating the same bloody carnage day with the kind of dark, tongue-in-cheek insanity of Crank.
Excellent.
Kind of humor.
Do you know what? I'm in for that.
It's a lot of fun. So that comes to Hulu in the US next month, and that'll be the test. If we get that same time as a Star original, we could be in for some good new stuff on there as well.
That's surprising how much content we've actually been given on Star, and a lot of it's exclusive as well to Europe and the UK. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what crosses over.
And there'll be more, won't there? Because things like the Alien films, which I said earlier were in 4K, they're still licensed by Sky, but they will come to Star, I think, July, August time, maybe earlier, later in the year in 4K.
There's a lot of content, isn't there? That the rights are with other people at the moment. They're going to come, they're going to get swallowed up. So Star, I think, will have a lot of content probably by the end of the year.
Yeah, different
more than it's got.
Have already got it. I think other territories with Star have already got the Alien films. It's just the UK has to wait because of the Sky UK license deals. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much turns up.
And is this stuff going to hang around, or will it start disappearing? That's the other thing.
They've got the rights to a lot of it, haven't they?
It's all a lot of it's what they own anyway. I mean, a lot of Fox titles and stuff like that which they own. But are they going to keep it up there forever, or are they going to start swapping things in and out? So
they've not suggested that they're going to start doing that with anything else on Disney Plus. So I'd be really surprised if they.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
I'm quite looking forward to some of the originals that are coming out. I noticed, I was just having a flick through earlier today. Solar Opposites has started on Star, which is Justin Roiland's new cartoon guy who came up with Rick and Morty, and so that could be interesting.
I'm just wondering how much it's going to take me to drink before I watch the Independence Day sequel.
Have you not seen it, Ed?
I have seen it, and do you know what? I have not only do I think it's absolute bobbins, but I have a special loathing of that film because I went to see it in the cinema and I lost the bezel for my 1988 Tag Heuer Series 1000, and that's a spare part that doesn't exist anymore. So that watch has sat in storage for however long it's been since that film's come out. So it depends if I could. Essentially, watching it will just come through a deep wave of self-loathing.
You've been sending hate mail to Jeff Goldblum ever since.
I went to the cinema to see it. I can barely remember.
I went to the cinema to see it, and as I say, I lost my bloody watch bezel there. It was a truly dispiriting experience.
I'll have to watch another 150 clear titles before I even come close to watching the trailer for that. I think there's a lot on there I'd happily watch first.
Right then, that kind of wraps everything up for this week's podcast. So
bumper edition.
Podcast competition time.
Sure. To win a copy of Criterion's Investigation of a Citizen Under Suspicion on Blu-ray, just use the following question to select the right answer. Who directed Investigation of a Citizen Under Suspicion? I haven't checked the answers because I was sensible this week and I only launched the competition today. So I think a minimal amount of people have jumped on it.
You're saving people from themselves.
Yes.
Not all heroes wear capes. All I'm going to say is that you did the right thing there. So anyway, that's it for this week. But thanks to Ed Selley.
Get your ass back on the kit.
Kaz Harlow.
Why do you suppose I just hurled a chair at your head?
Greg Hook.
Were you rushing or were you dragging?
And Tom Davies.
There are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job.
If you enjoyed the podcast, then please give us a like and subscribe to the channel. I noticed lots of you have subscribed this evening, so thank you very much for that. And 56 of you so far have hit that like button, so thank you to you. If you're still around, please hit the button and the like button. It does help us out. And the 3 of you that hit the thumbs down, you've obviously hit the wrong one. So if you hit the right one there, we will always forgiven. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. You can bookmark every forums for its reviews, news, and videos. Plus, leave us a 5-star rating on whichever service you listen to the podcast on. If they allow it, then leave us that rating, please. But only if you enjoyed the show. I'm Phil Hinton. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. I will see you again next Wednesday.